So I'm on the BJJ Fanatics website, and I see 3 new videos by some guy named Thomas Radzinski. You familiar with that guy at all?
Nope, absolutely not.
No? Well, he's got some good stuff. Three brand new videos. They're getting amazing reviews, which is good to see as well. But you got to tell us about them real quick?
Yeah, I had, you guys already know, but I had opportunity to go to Boston, shoot 3 more instructionals, 1 on butterfly hook, complete guide for butterfly hook, 2 wrap, lapel, and submit them, and 3 we have taking the back. It's particularly designed for guys for over 40 because there's no climbing involved. All the back takes are on the ground. Very, very full and effective system. So dip into it. I'm really hoping that this is going to help your jiu-jitsu and really take it to the next level.
BJJfanatics.com. Just search ROZDZ. We have all had that situation where after classes when we want to ask a question. And Thomas, a lot of those questions you've already answered, right, at Ask a Black Belt.
Yeah, it's another podcast that I'm running. It's on podcast, all podcast platforms, plus on YouTube. You can find it anywhere. Just search for my name. Search for Ask a Black Belt. At this point, over 100 episodes, different questions, jiu-jitsu, life-related, but something that everybody comes across, and often these questions sink in our mind, but we don't ask for whatever reason. So if that benefits you, go there, listen. It actually might help your jiu-jitsu, might help your life as well. And if you have any questions, find me on Instagram and drop me a line. I'll be happy to answer your question and mention your name during the episode.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live.
Go.
There was little turbulences.
Technical difficulties?
Yeah. Not every episode is amazing, even though they appear to be amazing at the end as a post-product.
Well, at this point, I think everybody's so immersed in technology, they know that when something goes wrong, what a pain in the butt it could be. It always makes you think of the comedian Louis C.K., though.
Who's comedian Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K., he's a comedian.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't know anything about pop culture, so that's surprising.
Oh, I know who he is. I know who he is. I face. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
He was talking about how, like, when Wi-Fi would be on the airplane and the Wi-Fi would go out and people would be all pissed off and be like, you're on the Wi-Fi on an airplane. It's going to take you 3 or 5 hours to get from New York to Los Angeles, and you're ranting and raving because the Wi-Fi doesn't work. It's like, Jesus, calm down. But
yet here we are.
Yep, I know. When it goes out at the house, oh my God, my kids are unbearable. Unbearable. So
shit hits the fan. Huh?
Yep, absolutely.
So what do you do when I want insight on this. What do you do when Wi-Fi goes out at your house?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do? Like,
I can do anything. I can, it's easy enough for me. I can do whatever.
I guess my question is, what do you do with the situation? Your kids go crazy, and then what?
If it's out of our control, you unplug the router, you plug it back in, all that stuff. If it's out of our control, I just very calmly say, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing we can do. There's no use getting upset about it. Get a book. Practice.
Book? That means like you have to read it.
My kids read.
Well, they do. That's good. Okay.
Get a book.
Do you?
Find something. Yeah, I've got a book right now that I'm supposed to be reading. I'm surrounded by idiots. So
how's that going?
How's it going? I don't know. I haven't
Page
opened
6.
No.
Shout out to Edgar, who loves reading books. I recommend.
Yeah, I think you gave us. So this is a work-related book. Yeah, for all you grown people out there who still have to do book reports at your job, which is probably none of you. My book report is due. Well, it's not literally a report, but we're supposed to talk about the book, I think, on December 12th. I will pick that book up the 10th or 11th. But that's not because I'm a procrastinator. It's because then I will.
You're trying to make a point.
Well, no, if I read it now, a lot of it will slip away over time. If I read it right before we're going to discuss it, it'll all be fresh memories.
I can't wait for this conversation to take place. Yeah. We should take a takeaway just on that.
On what? Surrounded by idiots?
Just how the experience was.
But that's not what anybody's listening to this for.
No.
This is a book. So I guess we're talking about determination today. And the reason I picked it with Patty was because of her determination to just go to jiu-jitsu in the beginning. She comes from that time in a place where she wasn't supposed to. Girls don't do that, and she had to work an end around on that a lot of the times. So she was determined. How many kids do you know? How many teenagers do you know, or do you think, if they were told they couldn't do something by their parents, and it was something like this, like jiu-jitsu, something harder, something that takes effort and time, would be like, okay, cool, and just give it up. Where on the other end of the spectrum, you have her who is like, oh, you don't want me to go? Well, then I'm going to go in secret. You don't, all the stuff that kids do when it's something you don't want them to do that's bad for them, all those sneaky things and all that stuff, they're determined to do it then. She did it for jiu-jitsu and for something that was good for her, which I think is pretty fascinating. And look at her now, right? So multi-time world champion, which she didn't even have. That wasn't even her goal in the beginning. It was just showing up. So and getting better. I think it's pretty cool.
Do you think that's part of her personality as a driven person?
She said it was, right? She said that was part of her personality. And, she has an extensive dance background, which if you want to get good, if you're in something like ballet for 11 years or so, you're probably a pretty determined person because, as much as people make fun of dance and things like that, you ever look at a ballet dancer's body? You ever look at? Those people go through hell.
They're beat up.
So I think if you can be determined enough to get good at that, or not even good, but stick it out for all those years growing up, I think it's probably pretty ingrained in you. And if you choose something else to excel at, it's probably part of your personality that helps you get there.
Yeah, because I keep wondering if, when we are teenagers, we don't want to do much, right? We're kind of coasting through life. As a matter of fact, oftentimes we do the opposite that we are supposed to, just for the purpose of doing it, right? That those years are ahead of you. Just you're around the corner with your kids. That's going to be a party at your house.
I feel like my daughter's already.
I was about to say, if that hasn't started, it will, right? And then you're talking about individuals who do things and they find high success rate with the things that they've done during their teenage years. And I keep wondering, is it because they were just interested? Is it because they had nothing else to do and that's the only outlet? Is it because the parents created an environment where they were not forced, but that was the only thing that was around, in a sense? You know what I mean? Like creating that path where you don't have choices? Or was it the fact that there was no choice and this is what you were doing, and there was kind of the enforcement part, right? It kind of that part of life could really unfold in many different ways. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Like, why some continue doing things and others don't?
Probably because at some point it comes down to passion or whether or not you really love it.
But do you think you can be passionate when you are 15?
Oh, absolutely.
You think so? Like, to the point where you understand the comprehension level of saying, I'm really passionate about jiu-jitsu. I really want to do this.
You might not be conscious of it, but you might, it's just, it's you love getting up every morning and you're looking forward to it. It's exciting to you. You can't wait to do it that day. You can't wait to be with those people. You can't wait to get a little bit better than you were yesterday.
Yeah. It might not. I see what you're saying. It might not have the purpose of me getting better, but it might be the purpose of me doing this thing because I enjoy it, or me hanging out with the people I like.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a different level.
Yeah.
Maybe when
Yeah.
you're younger.
Yeah.
But then it clicks for you at some point where you realize, then at some point maybe you start setting goals,
Mhm.
and you need to figure out what to do to achieve them. Right?
Mhm.
Instead of just showing up every day and doing the work and getting better, there comes a point where you have to really put some thought into it in
Yeah.
order to get to another level. Some
Yeah.
people don't care about getting to another level, and that's fine.
And yeah,
But if you want to step it up, then you got to really start, planning and preparing and putting thought into what you're doing on a regular basis.
yeah, and that's no, you bring up a good point. I mean, it's it's always interesting. I'm trying to think about these things, and obviously I think way too much about these things than I probably should. But
Mhm.
it kind of why are you agreeing like that?
Anytime you say anything negative about yourself, I agree. Doesn't matter what it is. I'll agree.
Oh, great.
Why not?
This show is going places. Just before there was like 3 people listening to us. Now it's like millions. So,
Millions.
yeah.
Sure. Millions per episode or millions overall? Edgar keeps sending us messages. We sent them out. Side note here, we sent them out to get some screws and toggles to hang some stuff here at the academy, and he's very confused.
Well, there you go. Yeah, the only guy who went to do actual.
Here's what we'll do to tie it in.
Yeah.
We're not going to send him a message back. He has to be determined enough to figure this out.
This is alive as it's happening
Yes.
during the record.
And I have a big feeling that I'll be sending myself to Home Depot.
What a great
He's got
takeaway.
my credit card. My work credit card. So I'll be making the returns so that I don't get scolded by the people that handle all that.
Who would that be?
Yeah, the real boss.
The real boss.
But to get back on track here, as a teenager, I think there's so much thrown at you nowadays that it's probably hard to pick something to be determined about.
Yeah.
I see kids here that like are in love with jiu-jitsu and they're on the mats and they're giving it their all and they're learning and they're training and they're excited to be here. But their parents have them in
70 other things.
Yeah. So much other stuff that they just can't get here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like they're on the travel league baseball team and they're paying for all these clinics and they're paying for all these private instructions and their parents think that they're gonna be a pro baseball player and the chances
At the age of 4.
Yeah, and the chances of that happening are just minuscule. In certain other sports where physicality plays an even bigger role, although baseball players are gigantic now. So
But
how does a kid pick? How are they passionate?
Don't. Yeah. They don't pick.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I was asking this, 15 minutes ago. Do kids even have the capacity to be passionate about it? And I suppose we answered the question. The passion could be coming for different reasons, right? But I'm not sure if we have the brain power to process the information the same way as the adults would. Like, I love jiu-jitsu, or forget about jiu-jitsu for a second. I don't know. I love basketball. So I'm going to make a point to make my schedule available and get everything done that I need to do in order for me to go and play basketball 2 or 3 times a week. Like there's planning, there's goals associated, there's some logic, there's choices being made. Now that really sets the quote unquote passionate apart from everything else, right? We're going to go over and above what we normally would do in order for that to be successful because I really love it so much, right? Mm-hmm. Can teenagers process information the same way when they say, I really want to go to jiu-jitsu, I really want to play, basketball. So that means that my homework needs to be done. I need to do all my chores. I need to do this. I need to get back on time. I have to sacrifice other things in order for me to do this thing that I really, really, really love. And that part, I am not sure.
I think it's an individual thing. I'm thinking the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about Travis Stevens, who, as a teenager, would
Yeah.
borrow his friends' parents' cars,
Yeah.
you know, and drive. They found out later several hundred miles.
Yeah.
You know, where's Travis with our car? But he would do that on the weekends so that he could go to tournaments, so that he could go to, you know, seminars and train with certain people. That is not something that his parents were forcing him to do. He did that. He took that initiative on his own, right? That's determination. And as a teen, he was doing that. So I think it's an individual thing. And I think it's the same way with adults. It's an individual thing. There are individuals out there who might love something but have no idea how to go about getting it because they weren't brought up that way, or the brains don't work that way. You know, they think that they're going to get on the mats twice a week and become the next, you know, the mat enforcer. And they don't realize that all those things you said, they got to get their work done, their homework done, which entails whatever they need to do to pay the bills, whatever they need to do to keep the house up and running. You know, and they might not be capable of that without some assistance. And those are probably the exact same people who they were that way as a teenager. I don't think you probably don't regress. Whereas a teenager, you were super determined and you could figure everything out. And then as a 30-something, not so much. Probably happens more often. Where if you are unable to do it as a teen and you don't have that guidance through your adulthood, you're probably the same way. So I think the individualism has a lot to do with it.
Do you think that maybe the times that we live in have something to do with it too?
Always.
Like you brought up Travis Stevens, which shout out to Travis. Jesus. Shout out to Travis. But, you know, 20 or 30 years ago, life was very different than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
The distraction factor was significantly lower, right? The distraction was about going outside and running or riding a bike, not playing video games at home. Like the tools that we surround ourselves with were very, very different than what we have today. As a result of that, the success or the ability to be successful and determined was much greater because of the distractions, right?
Possibly.
No? You don't think so?
Yeah, possibly. But I think at the same point, if you know, we live in the information age, so that's out there and to help you along. 50 years ago, you got a job after school to help.
Yeah.
You know, maybe. I'm just.
I get what you're saying. It is a point of evolution because before we didn't have. 40 years ago, there was no videos to study. Today, there are videos to study. But as a result of that, the distractions didn't exist, which means you could really focus before, where versus now, it's much harder to focus.
Yeah.
Stay on
Well, there's
track.
people that make a living off of teaching kids, you know, not even like here, like in an academy, but teaching kids how to better their swing in baseball. Like there's guys that make a living off of that. Which is crazy, which was unheard of 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I forget who it was. You know, every once in a while I'll see these stories where like a baseball player pitched a perfect game and he was on LSD, or somebody drank 40 beers the night before and got up and hit, you know, it batted the cycle. It's a different day and age. And, you know, there's not a chance in hell you would do that these days.
Yeah.
But this, you know, but at the same time, there's some weird thing about that person who could do it, you know, 40 years ago. That is kind of a determination. It's like, you know, how could they function like that? How could they get up in the morning, get to the stadium, get out on the field, perform better than anybody else that day? With that insanity going on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
And then you have today, like you said, you know, you don't leave the house because you're 20 minutes late for work because you're scrolling on your phone. You know, those distractions.
That explains a lot about your hardness.
I am never late for work. It's because I don't have a time when I'm supposed to punch in. I have a very flexible schedule.
Clearly.
But you know, so I don't know. It's crazy. It's
sure is.
These times change, and everything changes along with it. And I think
sure is.
You know, if you don't, you probably get left behind. But at the same point, you have to have something inside you, I think. I don't know, can people learn determination? I know we're running a little long here, but is that something that can be acquired, to go back 5 minutes ago? Or is that something that's in you, you're born with that type of thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Being determined, that means being stubborn in a sense, having this drive to move forward towards the goal, right?
Mhm.
Determined is different than motivated. And
Yeah, it's closer to discipline than I think it is.
right.
Motivation.
And discipline is essentially a routine, right? Where you execute that you don't think much, right? So it's just part of your ongoing pattern,
Mhm.
right? And determined is that drive, and motivation gets you to get started. So can you learn determination? I think it's, I think it's choices. I do. I think it's all of this is choices, and some of them are harder than others. I'm not gonna say that it's all easy. I'm not saying it's all achievable for everybody. It's not for everybody. Not everybody can be successful like this, but it is choices. I think more tough choices we make, and more choices we make that lead us towards the goal that we want to achieve, more successful, closer to the success we will get. Does not mean that we'll be successful. We'll just we'll get closer. And those who are determined enough to have the routine in place, who don't give up, achieve the goal.
All right, then. There you go.
Later.
That's it.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.